So welcome all. These are the updates for July and August that you will see in the admin panel, or those where there's an implication for you that you probably need to start thinking about in terms of what's the policy you're going to adopt rather, or how you're going to manage it and manage the training that goes with it. As always, I've got the marvelous James Leverage on board with me, so that when I get to a slide that I can read but don't really understand, James will step in to help me out, which is great. I suspect a lot of these you will already have seen, because some of them would have been from like early July, and you think, well, actually, why is that new, Paul? These are July and August, so that there might be some you're already using. I suspect this might be one of them. So first one then, in the menu on the left in the admin panel, now you've got the option to pin anything that you want at the top. So those, so if you, for example, you've got someone who's groups admin, you know, they might have super admin, but they manage the groups, for example, within your organization. You can set it that that gets pinned at the top in their admin panel, so they haven't got to go through the menu every single time to get the thing that they get to. I think that I've written down, you can pin 5 items. So if there's lots of places you visit regularly, you want to pin them all, you clearly can't do that, but the 5 most frequent you can. Just, and it's that whole thing, isn't it? Just a fractional improvement just makes the workflow that bit easier, so that they're at the top rather than you having to scramble through the menu every single time. So that's a rather neat little addition. And I think this is also quite good, and I hope they're going to extend this right across the whole series if they haven't already, of apps, that you can customize error messages within chat. So if someone's breaking a rule, so if someone's stuck a file inside a Google chat message, for example, or they're saying something or copying and pasting some information into a Google chat, you can customize the message that tell them which of your particular policies that they're breaking and why the message hasn't been sent. And it just tells them that, just to remind them that no, you shouldn't really be doing that, which I think is really, really useful. Does assume they're going to read the message, of course, rather than just think, oh, it didn't work, so I'm going to email my IT technician, which of course you'll still get. We haven't got a solution for that. James, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that is very dependent on whether you have actually created DLP rules within the admin console. So if you create DLP rules for specific personally identifiable information, or PII as it's known, you can then customize the message that someone would get within a Google chat to say, guess what, this has triggered our DLP rule on you know, national insurance numbers or whatever, and they will get that message to say that it's not being sent for this reason.
Okay. Excellent, thanks for that, James. So really useful. I mean, data is crucial, isn't it? You've got to keep it. I always say that you optimize for learning and at the maximum security level. So that focus round is about learning, but clearly you've got to keep everything secure. And I think the arrival of the DLP rules over the last 2 or 3 years has made a big difference to how secure you can keep that data, that things can't get accidentally shared outside the organization and things, which I think has made us all a lot safer, which is a great thing. Excellent. Moving on. App sheets core licenses now are going to be, they were already available in standard if you have standard subscription, but they're now, oh sorry, they were already in Education Plus. They're now also being added to standard if you've got standard. And it's basically you've got control about how you share externally and what connects to externally, and any external emails that go out automatically. But if you are applying the under 18s rule to any of your users, they will not get access to AppSheet. So it only applies to the 18 plus people in your organization. No one below that age group gets access as a default anyway. So you can't do that. You need to change their age in order for that to be allowed, or their assignation of over 18. Okay, so this is generally available for everyone. You can create spaces, you can add members. I'm going to move to the next slide. I think the next slide kind of covers everything off all in one. Yeah, here we go. There's a load of new kind of APIs that are now generally available. And this is kind of the long list of the things that you can now do to manage those spaces. I'm sure some of you would have heard before, we use spaces really extensively, both internally. So of course we've got like a whole C-Learning team chat, but we've also got project specific chats, and we also use chats with external schools and colleges, and we support them through that. And there are people on here that I regularly chat through, talk to through chat. It's a really, really useful tool. It doesn't reduce the number of messages you get, but it changes the focus. So it doesn't all go into your inbox, which is what it would have done a few years ago. Some now go into the chat, and certainly chat spaces allow you the luxury of things like assigning tasks and adding files. If you're using chat space as a project space, you can add files. And I'm not sure if anyone was here when they announced this, but in June, I think they announced that you can create a chat space now where only the space managers can make announcements. So it in effect becomes a digital notice board. So you could have all your staff, and you can have up to 50,000 people in a single chat now. So they're massive. So I don't think there's anyone on the call here that would exceed that. So you can have 50,000 people in the chat. So you can have your entire organization in the chat. And then just senior leadership or specified people able to make messages and no one else. So it's just a read-only tool. The range of things it can do is pretty substantial, and we use it, like I say, very extensively. And this list, which I'm not going to read out, because don't forget, you'll get this slide deck afterwards anyway, courtesy of Chris. This all the things that you can do programmatically now using the Google Chat APIs to generate those things at the start of the year or whenever you need to make them, update member lists and all that kind of stuff. So it just allows you to do those things, plus actually adding in, documents and downloading it and uploading them and things. So you can send, key documents. Your staff handbook could be sent to all people in a chat group automatically, or to the chat group all at once, and that kind of stuff, without you necessarily having to go in there yourself. So there's a whole load of things should you want them to do that. So working locations is something that, again, we use, and I know that some of our schools and colleges have mentioned this. I always think about Dave Leonard at the Watergrove Trust, and he's got his IT technicians to use this, so he knows at a glance by just sharing their calendars where they are, which of the schools they're at, and when they move, and so on and so forth. But you can actually now programmatically read and write working locations for a portion of the day with Calendar API. If you want to be able to do this, you've got to be on the Google Workspace Developer Preview program. So I've put the link in there for you to join that. So you've got, once you're in there, you can then apply to join that. I think it's a beta currently, but you need to be able to be on the Developer Preview program first. And I think, like requesting to be in a beta test, you need to be a super admin to request to join that group on your domain. So just to be aware that that's the case. If any of you are using encryption tools to keep your data even safe from Google, because don't forget, if you've got a third-party encryption tool built into your admin panel, then even Google can't see those files and interrogate them. So if there's extremely sensitive stuff, you can keep it sensitive. But you can now use the Drive API to import files in bulk into your Google Drive and into the encryption tool that you've chosen, so that it keeps them safe right to the moment that they arrive. They're fully encrypted. It's not a second step, so it allows you to do it all at once, which is great. But as before, this is in beta, so you need to be signed up for that, and there's a link in the slide to allow you to do that should you want to do that. In case people, the encryption it's a third-party tool you need to buy and subscribe to, add it into the admin panel so that people can then apply it to the files they want to keep safe. So if you're not using that currently, then it wouldn't apply. But if you are thinking there are files need to be encrypted, then that option's available to you. But the encryption tools are a third-party purchased tool. They're not part of the Google Admin Workspace offering. So you can sync your users and your groups from an Azure Active Directory using the directory sync tool, which is built into the admin panel now. I think it's just about rationalizing that. If you're still using AD to generate all your users and things, then you've got a built-in tool. And I think it replaces, I forgot what the other one was called. I think was it GCDS? Was that the one? I can't remember what it was called now, so I'm sure someone will remember. There used to be another tool that you kind of add on. It's now kind of built into the Google admin panel just to make that syncing process that bit neater to do. So this is quite an interesting one. First party and third party applications that you've got built into Google Workspace, you can now set context aware policies for how they behave. So if you set it that this particular app can only be used within on site, for example. So whilst they're on site, they can use this tool, but we're not allowing them to use off site. You can set policies that say, only if they're in these IP addresses can they use this tool, and so on and so forth. You can set it by device. So it might well be that you want to set your finance team access to a particular third-party web-based accounting software, but nobody else can. So they have to be on the right device in order to be able to access, just to increase the security of that particular tool, and so on and so forth. And you can set people's status, and I've already mentioned IP address. So it's just about increasing the safety of those tools when they are, when you're sharing your access with third-party applications and so on and so forth, which is really rather neat. You can turn on or off Google Forms with a bit more control now by OU and by group. I think previously it was turned on alongside all the other Drive tools, so you've got a bit more control on that. And when it's off, the people that you've turned it off for can't create forms, of course, but they also can't edit them, and they also can't respond to them. So you've got quite a lot of additional granular controls there, should you want to. I'm hoping, if I'm honest, I haven't just realised, now I've said that out loud, it's the one I didn't read in enough detail. I'm hoping that they are 3 separate things, because you do want people sometimes to be able to respond to forms, but not necessarily create or edit their own. So you might want students never to create a form, for example, younger students, for example, but you would still want them to respond to a form. So I'm hoping that they aren't all or nothing, that they are 3 separate things, but I'm pretty sure that they are 3 separate things. The GIF doesn't really demonstrate the full functionality there, but I'm hoping that's the case. Oh, that's a repeat. I've already talked about that. The reason the repeat is that I've announced lots of things from ISTE, and then I didn't take them all out. And it wasn't until I was going through it this morning that I noticed I've taken a couple out this morning, but I clearly missed that one. I've already talked about that one. This might or might not be useful to you. Should you want it. It does require a bit of setup. If you've got you're using Google Calendar to allow people to book time with you, so we use our appointment scheduler a lot. You can now set up a Stripe account, and currently it is only a Stripe account, and build that into your Google Calendar, and then people basically book a time with you, but in the process of booking they also have to pay for it there and then, so you get payment up front for that particular thing. I suspect that's more likely to be commercial organisations and schools, but certainly some private schools might well find this a useful tool. I think state schools perhaps not so much. Please do correct me if I'm wrong if you've got a use case for this, but it's there should you want to use it, but it does require you to set up a Stripe account, for instance. James?
I was just going to say that would be useful in a school where they actually rent out or hire out rooms or premises.
So, yeah.
For example, if they hire out their hall, or they hire out the gym or whatever to a third party, that they could have a calendar for that room, and people would be able to directly book it and pay for it using that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I never even thought about that example. That's exactly right. So there we go. There is a use case, so that would really do. And the beauty of it, of course, is for you, from your point of view, it's much neater in terms of managing it, and that you also get paid up front, which is great. So you get the money before the event, which is fantastic. So there we go. But like I say, currently only a Stripe account. I mean, I expect other things will appear later, like PayPal and all that kind of stuff, but you do need to have a Stripe account for the moment. That's that. Improve meeting room suggestions into Google Calendar. This is if you've got the rooms sorted and you've got a booking system in place for this to happen within your organization. I think this could be really useful. So the admin person needs to set them all up, and you've got to set up buildings and rooms, so they need to be available for people to see. End users, I think, can still add another location if they want to. I think you can add a customized location, but if you want people to be able to select rooms when they make a calendar event, then you need to put them all into the calendar, ahead of time, and then it will make suggestions based on how people respond. If they say yes, I'm joining virtually, and it won't add a room, and so on and so forth. But if they say yes in a meeting room, it'll make suggestions, and you'll get the frequently used rooms at the top. And that is location specific, so if they know that you are most frequently in the same location, it'll suggest rooms in the location where you most often are. It won't suggest locations in a building that you almost never attend, and then it'll list all the other available rooms right across the organization below it. So if you're using that, and they're called rooms, they used to be called resources, because of course you can put rooms in there, but you can also put in, you know, your Chromebook trolley or your minibus or whatever it happens to be, so people can book out other resources within the organization as well as the rooms. It does, if you look at this GIF at the very top, it does say search for room or resource, and then not the GIF, the image. So it can be for resources as well, and it's definitely worth considering, because once the resource is in a calendar, there's no risk of it being double booked. So if someone's booked it for, you know, Monday morning, someone else tries to book it, they get told they can't book that resource because it's already booked to another calendar event. So it prevents that double booking risk. So if you haven't got a system of them, and it's worth considering adding them in, and the interface now is that much neater for it. But it does require you to put them in first. So anyone who uses Google Voice, you can now create a ring group manager. And once the ring group manager is in there, they can manage how the calls happen within that group of people within their group, and they can decide on how the calls get routed. So if someone's out of the office, they can forward it to somebody else's number, and so on and so forth. How long things ring for, and what the working hours are and things. So it just takes away some of the admin from you as the central admin for the whole school down to someone else who might need. So an office member of office staff might say it's such and such a person's time to be on the phone, so we'll reroute, you know, external calls to the office direct to your call, your phone for the next hour or so or whatever. So it allows them to manage it that way, which is really nice. We use Google Voice. We've all got one. It's a great tool. It makes life so much simpler, and I don't need to go to my phone to make calls because I can make it through the web, of course. So there are updates to organizing the way you export data from your organization. If you are on the fundamentals, you can export by specific user, and there's an improved interface for that, so it looks that little bit neater. But if you're on one of the paid versions, you can also do it by groups of users, by OU, or by group. I've just said that, I'm repeating myself again. So it just gives you a few more controls. So it's not, you can do individual users by on the free version, but you can do it by groups or by OU. That's i.e. all the users within that OU. So it just gives you a bit more control in the paid for versions should you need to export a large group of people's data. I don't remember what this means. I think this might be about resolve conflict accounts faster with a new conflict accounts management tool. No, I do. I left this in, and I still don't understand it. It was talking about if someone's made an account on your domain and you didn't know about it, and that therefore creates a conflict where there maybe there are two accounts of the same name and that kind of stuff. This will allow you to resolve that. And I'm reading that thinking, well, is there ever a scenario where someone could make an account and there's an exact duplicate of the account in there? If you're in the admin panel making an account, it won't let you make a duplicate. So I didn't know quite. So if anyone wants to pop in and explain how this might be able to resolve duplicates of the same account within your domain, even if that's even possible, then that's fine. If not, then if it ever does happen, by whatever method it does happen, then you've got the option to manage how that happens and resolve it within the admin panel. But again, like I say, I'm not quite sure how that could actually happen, because I think the controls just would allow you to do it. So if any of you are using app scripts to build any of your internal apps to kind of manage things, you've now got a new window option. It's in fact like version history. It's actually called project history in apps script, where you can actually view earlier versions of the app and the current version, just so you can compare the two. If you want to kind of fine tune your coding on that. So if you're using that, if you generating internal apps with using app script, can I ask, is if you are, just put your hand up, just give me a sense of it. How many people that are actually use app scripts for some of the things that they want to happen in their organization? Yeah, we go. Adam and David are, yeah, just two. Okay, excellent. You can put your hands down now, class. Thank you. Just give me a flavor. So you've got a way to view, here's the last version, here's the new version. I suspect it might be useful if you do troubleshooting and things, you know, to check where the mistake is. But it was working on that version. Now I've changed it. What else did I change to compare the two? So that might be handy, because I presume you'll get a line by line comparison. The picture doesn't show that very well, but I presume that's what you'll get. So that's in app script. Stronger protection, you'll start to get challenged if people start to do things in Gmail that you deem aren't necessarily as safe as they should be. So if someone sets a forwarding rule within their organization, you can set a rule and say, well, actually, that's not necessarily the right thing to do, or they add a filter, and they get asked for identity verification just to confirm it's them before they're allowed to proceed. So they'll need to do something on their phone, or put in the dongle, or put in a code or whatever. So it just gives you greater protection within Gmail. So I mentioned earlier about improved accessing by location, by IP, and so on and so forth. But you need to update all the third-party apps permissions by the 23rd of August for your organization, and particularly with reference to the under 18 rule, to make sure that everything is up and ready, so people don't suddenly lose access to files, to apps rather, after the 23rd of October. My suspicion is they might well extend that, because with lots of their deadlines where things get turned on or off and things stop working, they do sometimes make their announcement and set a date and think, oh, do we dare do it? And they lose their nerve and sometimes extend it. But don't assume they'll extend it. I think you need to be on top of this. And I think you might be surprised about how many apps you are currently using. So you'll need to go through and reapprove all of those so that they don't suddenly stop working for the under 18s after the 23rd of October. And you've got plenty of time, it's just short of 2 months, isn't it? So you've got plenty of time to do that. But please don't forget that. I will remind you early October about that. I'll repeat that in the October updates for September, just so you know that needs to happen as well. So Education Standard and Education Plus, this, you've got the option to join encrypted meetings from your mobile device. And I've literally just copied and pasted what came in the message about this, about what the admins need to do, and then what the end users need to expect when they actually join at the other end. So you just got to be aware of what's going on with the with that. If you're using client-side encrypted meetings for your Google Meets, I don't think we use that in C-Learning, but it might be that you do. So you need to be aware of that. And there's settings for you to do in the admin panel, and then there'll be implications for the end user at the other end as well. Standard and plus only, not the free and not the teaching and learning. And then I think this is the last thing. Oh no, not quite. Let's do that first. You'll start to see in the workplace this independent security verification on apps. I think it's just a way to kind of increase your peace of mind, really, when it comes to deciding whether you want to use particular apps or not from the marketplace. It gives you a little bit more information about what makes it safe, and you've got to learn more, so it'll tell you about the certification process and being certain. So these have been gone through by people external from Google that say it's safe for these reasons, this is what they do. It just gives you a better view of what the thing, what the app does, and whether you can make the decision whether it meets your kind of security policies and you allow it or not, and so on and so forth. And James, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that one that even though it's showing as being security verified independently, I would recommend that you still do your DPIA on any third-party app.
Yeah, no, absolutely great. Thanks very much for that, James. Absolutely. I mean, kind of your duty of checking that it is fully compliant with what you believe to be right, that they are gathering only the data that they actually need. I think in the past, I don't think he was malicious necessarily. I mean, clearly there's some malicious ones out there, but a lot of the apps that were collecting data unnecessarily were creating it, I think, because it was kind of lazy coding, that as they've made their coding more and more efficient, there's less need to collect data across a whole series of apps that they don't necessarily need. So generally speaking, third-party apps are now much more efficient in the data they collect and are very much more targeted, so there's much less of an issue. There are still some out there, and I'm aware of people do use Pear Deck, for example, and I do know that still isn't GDPR compliant. But you've got to make a judgment on that because it's a great tool. So you've got to take a judgment. Well, we're going to use it because it's such a useful learning tool. It's that balance, isn't it, between security and learning that you're always having to make with all of these things. So yeah, so definitely do your due diligence in the process of deciding which apps are appropriate to use. And I think in the past we've talked about this, it might be worth repeating it. One of the things that has been suggested, and I think it's good practice, is allow a small number of staff to be able to install apps to explore their potential. And then once they've explored their potential, they're on a kind of protected account. And then they then make a request to you, you then go through that due diligence process of checking it. But people need to be able to explore these to know whether there's educational value in them first before they know whether it's even worth checking whether they're secure to use. So giving some staff the option to try them out to decide whether it's suitable for their needs, and then make the request, and then you do your due diligence. It seems a sensible way around to it. Okay, so the last thing is Duet AI. Duet AI, I think, is going to be phenomenal. The things that it can do is just, there's a big training implication. You've got to get your staff's head round how they make use of it, because you could give a member of staff a Duet AI account, and it is an additional service, and it's a paid for service, and it isn't cheap. But actually, the things that it does are going to be phenomenal. So some of these things that jumped out at me that I thought, these are just fantastic. So the option to make slides. So you've got a new presentation about a new topic. You know, the exam boards changed their exam spec. They've included a new topic in it, and you ask Google Slides to make you a slide deck about that topic. You can't just, that wouldn't be enough, of course. You'd need to give them more information than that. So they've got some kind of structure on which to build it. But you can say, and include photographic images in the background. Yeah. And then once it's done, you can say, now make it more informal, or change the pictures so they're all the same colorway, so that it feels more connected. The fact that you can do that, it won't necessarily give you a finished product, but it'll point you to, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. It makes you rethink a topic, because of course, if you're the subject teacher delivering that, you'll know the content, but it just makes you rethink it, which I think is a really useful thing, because I think we get into habits, and just to make us rethink that is a really useful thing. Doing the same in email, writing an email and say, oh, God, that's good, make it more formal, make it less formal, and add a link to this website, and all those kinds of things. Just the fact that you can do it, and just ask it to do it, and it does it, and then you edit it. And it's that whole thing, isn't it, about Aunt Sally, you know, giving yourself something to knock down, to adjust, and to edit. So whilst these aren't necessarily specifically admin things, the fact that AI is on its way and this new tool is on its way, I think the potential of it is absolutely huge, and it will do such a lot that will make the work efficiencies for your staff so much more improved. It will just knock the socks off. But there is a training implication. You only need to think about whether it's you or a training manager. How do we, if you're going to buy this, how do we make them get best value out of it by using it as extensively as possible? That's the thing, I think. So it could be just phenomenal. Chris, hello, Chris.
Hey, hi, Paul. Yeah, just on that, Duet AI is a paid service, and it is something that we can get, or we're in the process of being able to offer a 14-day 10-user trial to. We're just waiting for it to arrive on our reseller panel at the moment. It was supposed to be there on the 1st of September. We're just working with Google to get that set up. So if it is something that somebody's interested in learning a little bit more about, then please contact me directly, and I can give you some further details on that. But yes, we will be able to get some trials and set up and some demos for that very soon. So yeah, thanks Paul for that.
No, thanks very much for that, Chris. No, it's AI is just, we're just scratching the surface of what it's possible of doing, I think, at the minute. I'm sure you are already using it. You know about the Explore bar, you know about the smart responses, and there's a whole load of things built into Google Workspace. This is an additional layer that will just completely change the way people work if they take it on board and use it properly. And that's the thing. Yeah. The other one for me, because my brain works quicker than my fingers, is the whole thing about proofreading documents. You know, doing a visual inspection sometimes, because it'll do sense check. It won't just do the basic grammar and syntax and all that kind of stuff. It'll do a sense check, because it's AI. It's more than just a basic spell checker. So that seems to me really exciting that you'll do that. And I would love an account. Is Steve on the call? To have a proper play, to explore what it's capable of doing, so that, you know, if any of you do take on a trial, then you've got someone that's had a really good play that can get the trial off to a good start, because it's only a short trial. So you need to be certain that everyone's fully briefed and ready to go, so they can really explore it and make the most of it. So you can then make an informed decision at the end that this is a good way to go for you. But I just think it's a very, very exciting time in education, because there's such a lot that it can do. It's the announcements I did. I just left them in there just to make sure I didn't repeat. And those are it. So any thoughts, any questions about any of those? Any questions more generally about the admin panel that this august body of thinkers can help people with today? What do people think about the what I've just shared? Any particularly jump out at you think really useful? We'll be using that. Thank God that's arrived.
I think the ability to be able to, you know, if you work in the admin panel all the time, the ability to be able to pin specific areas of the admin panel to the top, so that you can just one click and you're straight into that. That's a very useful tool, particularly when, as we all know, within the admin console, Google like to move things about all the time.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah, but and some of the things you go to a lot are down through a number of expanding menus, aren't they? So it's actually just makes life so much simpler. So yeah, great, exactly that. Thanks, James. Any other thoughts about things that people think, well, that's good, I'm looking forward to that arriving, or thank God that's arrived?
How do we get more info on Duet and accounts and things like that? That piqued my interest.
Gary, I'll share you. I'm sure Chris has got it because you're in the list of invites. So Chris will get in touch as soon as we're waiting. It was announced, wasn't it? Big announcement at Next 23. All the things that it can do as soon as it arrives. So if you're not sure, Chris, Gary's from IEG Group.
Yeah, that's no problem. Gary. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you after the meeting. Like I say, we keep checking every day. It's bated breath. We've got people interested in getting hold of a trial. So as soon as that arrives on our reseller panel, we'll be able to get the details across, Gary, and get you set up with that. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
10 users, is that right, Chris? 10 users.
It's a fairly short trial. So what we'll do, Gary, is anyone who's got interest in this will say, okay, when do you want it to start from? So you can get maximum use out of it. It's 14 days. And it's 10 users on that. So there we go.
Thanks a lot.
Fine. We've just on that. So we've got kind of a rough outline on pricing. Still in dollars at the moment. There's sort of two options. You're looking at sort of $36 on a rolling monthly setup. That can be reduced down to sort of $288 for the year, which is sort of $24 a month if you want to break it down on that on an annual subscription. But we've still not got anything in pounds, shillings, and pence, so to speak. So we've not got anything in a UK currency at the moment, but that'll be coming very, very soon as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. The thing I would say about that, it's a short trial with a small number of people. So if you are thinking, we need to find out about this, AI is the big thing, isn't it? You need to, even if you just do the trial and nothing else, you need to be informed about what its potential is in case you decide to use it later on. And think really carefully about the people in your organization, because a 10-day trial, if they haven't got the capacity to have a proper play and fully explore it in that time, you can't make an informed decision. So it's definitely worth thinking really carefully about, who do I get in the trial? How do I make clear to them that there is an expectation that they need to give time up to have a proper play across a whole series of apps? So it might mean that of the 10 people in the user group, you say, well, actually, let's the three of us get together and just experiment with just pinging some dummy emails to each other and see how we can go about doing that, and what do we ask and how do we interrogate it? Because that whole thing about AI, that kind of the prompt protocol, how you ask the questions, how you inform AI what you want it to do is a crucial part of it, isn't it? And Socrates said it 2,500 years ago. We just got to ask better questions, and the way you phrase your request of AI is the key to success with it all. So think carefully about who you want in it, and make it clear that there's an expectation they've got to allocate time to have a proper play. So you know what you're getting, and then you can make an informed decision. Excellent. Thank you for that, Chris. Thank you, Gary, for the question. Any other questions about any other functionality? Any general questions about admin panel? Any conundrums you want solving? I won't be able to solve them, but you've got an intelligent group of people in the call. They'll be able to solve it for you. So one last thing from me, in case people aren't aware, the Chrome OS Administrator course, which is an accredited Google course, the actual doing the course is a website, which I will share in a moment. The access to the website with all the articles to help inform the course is free. Ordinarily, to sit the exam is $124, I think. Until January, Google are allowing people to sit the exam for free. So if you want a Google recognized admin qualification, the Chrome OS management qualification is currently available. And let me get you the link to the website. So you've got it. And Chrome OS admin. There and there. So this first link just goes through the course and what you need to know. And because of who you are and the role that you have, you almost certainly already have a lot of this information anyway. So it's not that you don't know, it's kind of a useful reminder. And then the second link is where you will go to register for it. So in terms of registering, when I first registered, I used the one I'd used with Criterion for the Google Educator Level 1, Level 2 exams, and it got confused and logged me into my standard Criterion website, and I couldn't see the Chrome exam. So I had to log in with a different username and password, so a different account in effect, to get to the Chrome OS admin exam. But it's free until January, and I'm on the directory. So if I can do it, then I'm certain that this group of people will easily be able to do it, because I'm sure I only got through by the skin of my teeth. So there we go. Excellent. If there are no other questions, I'll hang around for sort of 4 or 5 minutes in case anyone wants to ask me a question directly or James a question directly. But if there's nothing else, then I'll say thank you very much, and hopefully see some of you. Oh, share the slide deck. There's the slide deck from today. So, I mean, Chris will follow up with another share of the same document, but you've got it now should you want it. And if there's something else, I will say thank you very much, and hopefully see some of you tomorrow for the Workspace Wednesday updates.